Hi everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are the NEAR Project, a group of students dedicated to raising awareness on the quality of education of Native Americans in the United States. Through our short mini-series, we'll be informing you on the basics of this important social issue. In today's crash course, we'll be learning about the history of American Indian boarding schools and the current state of Native education in the United States. To start off our history lesson, let's talk about early Native education. The Civilization Fund Act of 1819 tasked Christian missionaries and the federal government to teach indigenous youth Eurocentric cultural values, norms, and manners, eventually leading to the creation of boarding schools to carry out this charge. Over time, countless children were placed in boarding schools. The 1878 annual report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs states that one of the objectives for the boarding schools was for the children to be removed from the influence of their parents so that they would not resume their traditional tribal ways. In 1891, it was mandatory for indigenous children aged 6 to 11 to attend boarding schools. In 1983, the education of children aged 8 to 20 was compulsory, and parental defiance resulted in the withdrawal of food, rations, and supplies. The boarding schools had overcrowding, ventilation, heating, sanitary, and safety problems. Moreover, it had frequently been reported that children were imprisoned, denied food, abused physically, mentally, and sexually for not following the rules. Only in the late 1970s did the government make the forceful removal of Native youth from their homes illegal. Let's move on to the current state of Native education in the United States. The Bureau of Indian Education, the BIE, currently supports 183 schools within 23 states, with a total of 48,000 students. 59 schools are operated directly by the BIE, and 124 are operated by local tribal school boards. The quality of education of Native Americans has improved since the boarding school era, but is still quite poor compared to the rest of the population. Many elements contribute to the problem. Firstly, the issue of curriculums. Curriculums within these schools are not always following federal law. The Government Accountability Office has reported that the BIE has been mismanaging schools and accepting curriculums that weren't and still aren't meeting the requirements. Second, the teaching content. Students do not have access to classes centered on Native history, culture, and languages. Third, the lack of qualified teachers. As most of these schools are situated in rural areas and the BIE's allocated budget for these schools is low, there's not enough money to attract good teachers. Fourth, sparse technology. 60% of Native American schools are behind on 21st century standards such as computer access. Fifth, the poor infrastructure. Numerous schools are in structural disrepair. It is sometimes not safe for the students to be inside the schools due to leaking roofs and walls, moldings, as well as found traces of asbestos. Graduation rate statistics for Native students are less than desirable. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, 70% of Native students who start kindergarten will graduate from high school, compared to a national average of 82%. Those attending BIE schools have an even lower graduation rate of 53%. In addition, only 17% of Native students attend college, as opposed to the national average of 60%. That is it for this week's episode. We will see you next time when we will talk about the American Indian College Fund, which provides scholarship for Native American students. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. This is the NEAR Project, signing off.